Hello and welcome to Connected, episode 237. It's made possible this week by our sponsors, Hello, Hover, and ExpressVPN. I'm Stephen Hackett, and I am joined by Mr. Federico Vitici.
Hi. I thought Mike was going to be introduced first.
Yeah, like what number is 237 divisible by, huh?
Not two.
Like, you made us agree to these rules, and now I feel bad for Michael, because this was...
I was getting ready for my triumphant statement of like, haha, it is finally an odd episode, so I'm back at number one. And then you just yanked the rug out from underneath
You ruined
me.
everything.
This is why you created this rule in the first
I know.
place, because
It was an
otherwise
honest
this is
error.
the episode
I'm
start
sorry.
in such
I'm
anger.
sorry.
It's right there in the document at the very top in Comic Sans. What more do you want?
Taking away the only thing he cares about, which is the odd number.
I know. I'm sorry, Mike.
Well, hi, Steven.
Hey, buddy.
Hi. Mm-hmm.
Mike's here too, and he seems upset,
Nah.
so
Nah, I'm out of here.
you'll get to go first again in 2 weeks.
Well, that's a lot good, isn't it?
Probably. Okay, so we have a lot of things to talk about, but up first, a reminder that we still have a very few tickets left for our WWDC show, Wednesday, June 5th in San Jose. There's a link in the show notes. There's some seats left in the balcony. Mike has been tweeting a picture that we took from the balcony last year that I think will be in the show notes as well. Mm-hmm. Awesome seats up there. And so please, we'd love everybody to go check those out. Like I said, just a few left. I expect them to be gone real soon.
Don't wait on this. Get a ticket. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Because it's going to be a great show, and everyone's going to talk about how great the show was and how entertaining and fun it was. And you would be like, oh, man, if only I would have bought that ticket. Well, you can buy that ticket. You can buy it right now. This is Mike from the future telling you to go buy a ticket.
Mike from the future, can I ask you other questions?
Yes.
Is air power out?
No.
Okay.
Never will be. We'll talk about that later on.
He is from the
Mike was
future.
right.
All right, we have some follow-up, but we have to start, as all tech podcasts do, with some Shakespeare. So, Mike, do you want to take this?
Yeah, so we had a bunch of people write in to tell us about the Rosencrantz reference and why that came up with the heads and tails when we were doing our incredibly dramatic coin flipping in the last episode. Some would say the most dramatic thing to ever happen on our show, and I would say that they were right. So David wrote in to say the Rosencrantz reference from Siri is only indirectly from Shakespeare. It is directly from Tom Stoppard's play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which gets its title from the line in Hamlet. In the play, one of the characters, which one is Rosencrantz and which one is Guildenstern, is left unresolved, possibly spoilers, gets heads every time he tosses a coin. So I am assuming, because I was thinking, why did Stephen ask me to do this follow-up? And I am assuming it's because you didn't want to say the names.
That is true. But also, it felt like you're in London. It seemed like the right thing to do. But yeah, I was going to butcher all those names.
But it... Okay.
Also,
sure.
You ruined Hamlet for people, so you have to live with that.
No, it didn't ruin Hamlet. This is the secondary play, the adaptation.
Okay. I blacked out there for a minute, so
yeah,
that's behind us.
I also just wanted to note that you said that I'm in the UK. Hamlet wasn't based in the UK. Hamlet was actually...
But the globe is like
Denmark.
across... This is just right there in London. Like, whatever.
You guys seem to know a lot about theaters.
I know nothing about theaters.
I am an English boy. I know a lot about Shakespeare because we learn a lot about Shakespeare when we study English. Plus, I took English, like extra English. Like I did a lot of English.
So Hamlet would be the thing with the skull and to be or not to be, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's Hamlet, yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Federico, you have had a banner week on Twitter. Just incredible. Tell us what's going on.
Well, I guess the highlight would be that iDownload blog called me out because
that was my personal highlight. You're being attacked. You're being personally attacked by iDownload blog.
No, I mean, this is kind of awesome. They did an article about tips for dealing with multiple Apple Watches, and their tweet says, living the multi-watch lifestyle like Vitici, and they mentioned me via their Twitter account. They have, 7,000 followers, so that's fine. But yeah, they had this article about how to deal with the auto switch setting in the watch app. And here's what I'm going to say. it tends to work pretty well.
I had no idea that this setting existed.
Yeah, so once you pair multiple Apple Watches, you gain this ability to tap on the watch and enable the auto switch setting. Or
there's something so funny about that, right? That like once you have arisen to the point where you can afford to buy more than one Apple Watch, you will unearth new setting options. You've just ascended to a new level of capitalism. Congratulations.
What I noticed though is that it gets slightly annoying, where we all know, right, that updating the software of the Apple Watch is a pain. Now imagine when you're dealing with multiple Apple Watches. So what happens here is that here's where it gets kind of tricky. When you need to update the Apple Watch, at some point your iPhone will say you need to put your Apple Watch on the charger, and it has to have at least 50% of battery left. But if I put my watch on the charger, I instinctively put the second Apple Watch on my wrist. But if auto switch is enabled, software update pauses, because then I'm not wearing that first watch anymore. So what I need to do is, before I take the watch off, the first one, I need to go into the settings and disable auto switch, so that when I put the first watch on the charger, it still looks like my iPhone is still paired to that watch. So every time I need to update, I need to remember to disable auto switch. Otherwise, if I put the watch on the charger and I wear the second Apple Watch, the software update process will pause. So that's my teachy tip for the many, many people who wear multiple Apple Watches who also listen to Connected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Including my buddy Tim Cook, because now we're friends.
You are friends now. What happened? Tim he slid into your DMs, right? Is that what happened?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, we were chatting about multiple Apple Watches. No, basically what happened is last week, WatchOS 5.2 came out, and I was just chilling. It came out, it was like 11 p.m. and I was in bed and watching TV with Sylvia. And I didn't want to get up and report on the news. So it's like, Ryan, when you wake up tomorrow morning, you can write about it. There's no rush. Just, do some kind of overview.
You were being a kind boss, basically.
Yeah. It's like John was not available because he traveled for like 5 months. And Ryan was also not available. I was like, write about it tomorrow. It's fine. But then I thought, you know what? I'm going to share some hot takes on Twitter. And because I genuinely believe...
Like every good blogger does.
Exactly. So I was like, I can compensate for the lack of content on my website by sharing tweets instead. And I think I sent like a couple of tweets about, because I've talked about this before, the ECG stuff on the Apple Watch. I truly think it's a transformative thing to give to people for free in a watch. And I shared this positive tweet about it. And that was it. And I woke up the next day, had my breakfast, and at some point, at a very specific moment, I started receiving all kinds of messages. Because Tim Cook retweeted with a comment. So he quote tweeted my tweet saying, "Thanks, Federico!" ! We are thrilled that our new heart health features are now available in Europe and Hong Kong. And that was pretty awesome, because, it would have been awesome if it just quote tweeted my tweet, but to have "Thanks, Federico," that's like the additional touch that makes it extremely nice.
One of those things, he had to check he spelled it right.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Can you imagine, Ticci, if he would have called you Frederico? Can you imagine the level of excitement to absolute devastating heartbreak, the roller coaster that you would have gone on if he would have done that?
Hold on, because there is a precedent to this. Let me pull here my Evernote account. My good memories notebook.
Oh, do you want to work chat? I can work chat with you real quick.
No. I have a notebook called Good Memories, where I screenshot.
It feels like this might not be as good a memory as the book.
It is a good memory, but it's the exact example that you were referring to. A few years ago, when I wrote my life after cancer story, got tweeted by Phil Schiller, but he misspelled my last name. And so he wrote Federico, but he wrote Vitici, he wrote Vittici, and
I've done that though.
yeah, like, and I mean, Gruber did that a bunch of times as well. It's, I guess, the American spelling that comes more natural to English-speaking people. I don't know, but yes, at least Tim Cook, he used my name, but he checked and he actually used the right spelling. So that was pretty awesome. I was very excited about that. I like the fact that a bunch of people sent me congratulations, like, oh, looks like you made it. Like, I thought that was kind of funny. Like, I don't know what kind of idea of success people have in terms of making it. I think it's awesome. I wouldn't say that I made it because I got tweeted by Tim Cook, but I think it's still a pretty awesome thing that happened. So that was very nice.
I feel like in our little in our sphere, or like amongst your peer group, as people who write about Apple, the CEO of Apple to tweet about something that you did is like, or like to just acknowledge you, to give, well, you did have that like magical hug with him that one time.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't. I mean, it was awesome, but it's, I wrote about this 4 years ago. I have spoken to Tim Cook personally, so it's like being retweeted. It's like that. It's pretty cool, but like,
I mean, but come on, it's nothing like having a conversation with the guy.
Yes,
am I right?
Exactly. So, but still pretty awesome, and I was very happy, especially because it was such a positive message. I like that it was, of all the things, even if it was not a Mac Stories article that got shared by Tim Cook, I think the fact that he shared a positive message about a health feature, that sort of, I think that kind of is a good example of my presence online or whatever, like the kind of message that fits me perfectly. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I tried the ECG thing with Deanna's watch. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I was really pleased that it didn't tell me that my heart was in trouble.
Yeah,
so that was good news.
Same here. Took
the
a
first time I did it, I didn't put it on properly, and I was really worried about the animation because it was like every now and then, like it would just fly off the scale, and I was like, "Oh God, is this what 8-bit means?"
I'm done.
That's it. Off we go.
Done. Just
I've read enough of those stories by now to know that's how it begins.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least you get a cool blog post out of it at the end of the day. That's probably worth the trip to the hospital.
That is true. Maybe I would have got a Tim Cook tweet that way if I would have had a heart issue.
It doesn't even have a blog, so
you could guest post on 512 again. It'd be fine. We spoke about some point in the past, I don't know, about Apple Music extending to include things like concert tickets and merchandise, and it looks like maybe there's some people playing with that. Federico, what is the story about this secret merch?
Are you avoiding names again?
Yes.
Come on, say the name.
Just give it a go.
I don't even know who it is. I'm not cool enough to know your fancy musicians.
That's why it's more fun.
There's this very famous artist. Her name is Billie Eilish.
No, right now she is like considered to be one of the most important people in music.
Yes.
This is no joke.
Yes,
literally have not heard of her until this moment.
Yeah, this is her debut album as well, so like it is fine that you haven't yet heard of her until right now.
Yeah, call me when it's on vinyl. You know what I'm saying? Just kidding.
I bet it is.
It probably is.
She did a bunch of EPs before, and she's been collaborating with Apple. She was one of the first Up Next artists on Apple Music.
Yeah, you can buy it on vinyl, man. Sorry, you can.
It's the only real way to listen to music. Am I right, Casey?
Yeah.
She also did the song for the last Apple Christmas commercial, the one with the dog about creativity. What's it called?
Dogativity?
No, what's it called? Oh, come on. Don't hide. That song about, sharing your creative work. Anyway.
Yeah.
She's like one of the top artists right now, and everybody's sort of paying attention to this album because of the very peculiar sound and lyrics. And I mean, you can search for a name online, you will see sort of the articles that you can find. Even Pitchfork was kind of positive about her.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
They
Hold the
managed to
phone.
give her 7.5, which is, for this
The
kind of
highest
music.
score in the last
For
20 years.
this kind of music in Pitchfork, I mean, it's quite an accomplishment. Anyway, what I noticed, I was just, I saw this tweet about this Billie Eilish merch available via Apple Music, and it was a kind of weird process in that I had to click this link on Twitter that took me to an Apple Music page. This Apple Music page was not available on the artist profile page or by searching. I had to reach the page by following a link from Twitter or Instagram too, I guess. And once I found this page, there was a button to... It was like a custom page that collected the Billie Eilish merch link and the upcoming album so that you could pre-add the album and a bunch of playlists and Beats One interviews. So I clicked on the merch link and it took me to this, I guess it was like a branded Shopify store in Safari where you could, the song, thank you John Voorhees for the real-time follow-up, was called Come Out and Play, the Billie Eilish song from the Christmas commercial. So anyway, I actually put in an order for this Billie t-shirt that was designed. It was a very cool collaboration. It was designed by streetwear artist Don C, and it features the artwork from Takashi Murakami. He's done a bunch of really cool and colorful artwork before. And the entire process was very smooth. You could use Apple Pay, or you could just fill in and use your credit card. But the idea of... Now, this is an extremely poor implementation in that you had to make sure that you followed Billie Eilish on Twitter. It eventually got retweeted and reshared by the Apple Music account, but still, you could not find this merch link in the profile page. Maybe that was by design because it was a limited sort of exclusive deal. But I think the idea is very interesting of Apple collaborating with artists and giving them a way to embed merchandise in Apple Music. Now, I could easily see how this in the future might grow in a way that maybe you never leave Apple Music to buy this merch. You don't have to open Safari, but you just use Apple Pay or your credit card right in Apple Music. Maybe you don't have to use Shopify. I guess the big problem would be that Apple would have to take care of logistics. If the process excluded, Shopify or any other service that takes care of shipping and dealing with customer support, for example. But I think it's fascinating that Apple is sort of opening up to that idea of maybe in Apple Music we can feature more than just songs that you can stream, but maybe we can go beyond that and offer merchandise and, I don't know, maybe concert tickets or sort of this extra content that super fans may be interested in and get exclusively via Apple Music.
I mean, they could do a partnership with a company like a Shopify or whatever, right? Like to do this stuff. Or it could just be a case of just giving people the hooks to be able to set up their own platform. But it would be nice if they could do it at some point. There is a funny aside about Billie Eilish, which is that Federico noted this to me. Her album has some really, really heavy bass on it, and it sounds terrible on the HomePod. It sounds so bad. It just does not work.
Yeah, you need a good pair of speakers or headphones to not get the kind of effect that you get from one of the songs.
It's super weirdly distorted, which might be what she's going for.
She's going for that. She's going for that effect, but it's not fully rendered, I think, via the HomePod. And it's not really just a problem of the HomePod. I shared this on Twitter, and people have tried with Sonos Ones, for example, or other speakers. Like even my car speakers, I have a JBL system inside. They cannot. This is not a song that is meant to be handled. So she and her brother Phineas. He actually takes care of the production and actually writing the music. But I think they went specifically for this effect that is so distorted that it's meant to blast your speakers or headphones.
It's almost uncomfortable to listen to.
It
sometimes.
Is uncomfortable. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
I wonder how the iPod Hi-Fi would take it.
You should give it a go. You can be the person to answer this question.
Yeah. It's only one way to find out. So it's up to Jason, not me. I wanted to share a little bit about the current iPads. I had to go to the Apple Store yesterday to pick something up, and the new iPad Mini and the new iPad Air were out. And I feel like a lot of people, myself included, are kind of intrigued by returning to the mini size, or like Jason spoke about this as well. Like if you're going to do more than one tablet, maybe the mini makes sense as the second one. And it's like, okay, let me reacquaint myself with the iPad Mini. My kids have one, but it's in this giant case, and boy, it is all bezels. Like it looks so old. I was sort of surprised at my reaction to it. I could see a future if the iPad Mini eventually gets the new design with thin bezels. It would be really nice, but it is of a previous era, and boy, it's rougher than I expected. I don't mean to pick on it, but it really surprised me. It's a lot more noticeable in a smaller device than something like the iPad Air, which I mean really looks just like the 10.5 inch Pro, or like a stretched out 9.7 inch iPad. It's a very familiar shape and size to me, at least. I have a 10.5 inch Pro still in the house, but the Mini really looks like it's from a different era, and that's a little bit of a bummer. I wasn't particularly tempted by it as a second iPad, as a reader and sort of, walk around the house with it type thing. But I could see why people would be, because there is something kind of nice about that size, but the design sort of put me off on it more than I expected. So I don't know. It just really struck me. So I wanted to share that. Have you guys thought about an iPad Mini? I know, Federico, that's kind of where you started with your iPad lifestyle. Is that something you're tempted by?
I don't think I want to spend some money just to play around with it. And I think it's just something that I need to check out at the Apple Store. So I think I'm mostly fine with my current setup of the 12.9 and the 11-inch iPad Pro.
I have been purposefully avoiding the Apple Store.
So as not to walk away with one?
Yeah. Because I think that ultimately it would be something that I would think I would use more than I would use. I already have two iPads. Like I think that it is a really good entrant into the multi-pad lifestyle for somebody, right? Like if you have the big one, you have the biggest one, and you have the smallest one, like that might even make more sense than what I do. But I definitely don't need to be using three, and I wouldn't, right? Something's going to fall by the wayside in that situation. So yeah, I've kind of stuck away from it.
I think that's fair.
I think if they had redesigned it, right? Like imagine if it was a world that they kind of gave it the Pro treatment, then I would already have one.
I will say the length of the pencil being as long as the iPad is tall feels really strange. It's not a good feeling.
That seems weird to me. That seems very weird to me.
It's a little weird, but it's out there, and I think people are excited by it. People who like the iPad Mini, it has gotten a new lease on life, at least for now. Who knows what the future holds, but it's here now. So I also wanted to do some follow-out to Upgrade 239, as well as a Macworld article that came out today. Jason Snell has been spending time with the high-end regular iMac, and of course he has a base model iMac Pro as his daily machine, the same as I do. And he and I kind of been talking a lot about, at what point do you make the jump to the iMac Pro? I had some concerns about the high-end iMac that it seems like Apple may have addressed in this generation. It seems like the fan curve is gentler. You're still going to hear it a lot more than the iMac Pro, but it seems like it's better behaved, which is really good. And I think Jason kind of makes lays out the argument really well that the iMac is a great machine, but if you have certain types of tasks, the iMac Pro is still better, even though the iMac is or can be in the same class of performance for less money. A lot of pro apps that rely on a lot of multi-threaded work, the iMac Pro is still going to smash that iMac into the ground. So go check that out if you're looking for a new desktop. I think it's harder to choose between these two than it was, but my sense is that if you're an iMac Pro person, you're going to know that, and your workflow will dictate it. And if you're kind of on the fence, go check out what he's been writing and talking about. Mike, I was going to ask you too. I know you've said that you're looking to see what the Mac Pro is like. Does this new iMac change your thinking on what your next desktop may be? Is your iMac, your iMac's got some years on it, but still running strong. Has this changed your outlook on that?
I think maybe I don't know. It might mean that because I've kind of been waiting for the Mac Pro, right, to see what that's like before I make my final decision. But like I figured, I'll definitely get an iMac Pro, but maybe now I don't need that. Like maybe I could just replace this iMac with another kind of like comparable iMac to the one that it would be replacing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think mine's at the time was pretty close to top end, but I don't think I can. I definitely didn't max it out in all directions. But like there might be maybe one of the top of the line configs with maybe some more RAM in, and then that would probably be enough for me because I've not needed an iMac Pro yet, and I'm sitting with a 2015 iMac here, so I definitely don't need an iMac Pro. And the only reason I would go to the Mac Pro is if it was, there was a version of it that I felt was cost effective for my use case, and also like because for me it's like I then want to keep that computer for 10 years, right? Like that's my vision of it. But like to do that, then it needs to be really expandable, and we don't know what that means yet. So that's kind of my thinking on it, because I had this machine for like getting close to 5 years, right? By the time that Mac Pro comes out, so there's nothing to say that I couldn't then have a machine for 10 if I can change the parts in it when I need to.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing as well. Of what does that upgradable and expandable? What do those words mean in 2019 or 2020? Like I don't think they're going to like release a new cheese grater. I don't think it's that. But, what does it mean? And something John Syracuse has talked about is like upgradability and expandability is great only if there's parts, right? So even in the cheese grater days, and people are still using those and upgrading them, like your video cards were pretty limited in what you could do. So like, can you just pop in any card as long as you can find a driver? Like all those, like the Mac Pro is going to be made or broken for me in the details. And I think it's the same for you. We have a lot more to talk about: keyboards, headphones, magazines, YouTube videos, AirPower, lots of stuff. But first, I want to tell you about our first sponsor. This episode of Connected is brought to you by Hello. Hello make insanely comfortable buckwheat pillows. I don't know if you've tried a buckwheat pillow. I hadn't until I got mine. It's really different from your regular fluffy pillows that you're imagining. It supports your head and neck and doesn't collapse under the weight of your head like traditional pillows. I'm sure we've all had that. We're like tossing and turning, and because your pillow is just slowly compressed over the course of the night. That's not going to happen with a buckwheat pillow. It stays cool and dry compared to feather or foam pillows because buckwheat tends to breathe better, so you won't get all warm and humid. So no more flipping it to the cool side of the pillow. It's always cool. And you can add or remove filling to suit your needs. So your pillow can be just the way you like it. So I got mine, and it was a little tall, so I unzipped it and scooped a bunch of stuff into a gallon-sized Ziploc bag, and now it's just the way I want it. It turns out people have been sleeping on buckwheat pillows for years. They're very popular in places like Japan, and apparently they also appear on pillow menus at fancy hotels. I've never stayed in a hotel fancy enough for a pillow menu, and now that's my life goal. Like, can I just say that? Like, I want to be in a place where, like, what sort of pillow would you like tonight? And I would say buckwheat because I'm sold. The Hello pillow, like I said, it's the fact that a pillow could be adjustable to suit your needs was great. So I unboxed mine, I put it on the bed and laid down on it. I was like, okay, it's a little tall for what I want, and I could just change it. If you've bought pillows before, how it comes in the box is what you're stuck with. And Hello pillows are different. I think that's great. They're made in the USA with quality construction and materials. The certified organic cotton case is cut and sewn for durability, and the buckwheat is grown and milled here in the United States. So you're probably curious to try one of these things now, and you can. You can sleep on it for 60 nights, and then if Hello isn't for you, you can just send it back for a refund. Head over to hellopillow.com right now for your own buckwheat pillow. That's hellopillow.com. And if you buy more than one, they have a special discount of up to $20 off depending on the size you opt for. They have fast, free shipping with every order, and 1% of all their profits are donated to the Nature Conservancy, which I think is really cool. So give it a try. If you love it, you keep it, and if you don't, just send it back. head over to hellopillow.com now. Our thanks to Hello for their support of this show and Relay FM. A pillow menu, guys. What is that? That's not the world I live in.
Well, we can find that well for you.
Well, not if we spend all of our money on Logitech keyboards, which I think is the plan for Federico, maybe. Or maybe it's not. I don't know. Federico, what's the deal here? Are you buying more keyboards?
I'm not buying them. I honestly hope that Logitech can send me a review unit.
There
to
it
test
is.
This.
A keyboard menu. You want a keyboard menu is what you want. You want to wake up and say, what keyboard do I feel like today?
Exactly. That's the kind of life that I want to have.
And your keyboard butler brings you the keyboard.
Keyboard butler.
I want to have
Keeves.
Keyboard butler.
Keeves.
Oh my gosh.
What's his name?
Come on. Keeves, not Jeeves. He's Keeves. Come
Who's
on.
Jeeves?
That's our new
Jeeves?
character for the show. Keeves, the keyboard butler.
But is Jeeves a famous
Yeah,
butler?
Yeah, he was in Star Wars.
Jeeves and Worcester. But then also Ask Jeeves. Remember Ask Jeeves?
I have no idea what you're
The
talking
search
about.
engine? You don't know Ask Jeeves?
I think you mentioned this before. I don't know it.
That's interesting. But yeah, okay, you have to take it that Jeeves
So
is
it's a typical butler name.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's based
kinda
upon a fictional
like
character.
Ambrogio in Italy. In Italy.
Exactly like that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly like that one. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Made that up.
Cool. No, I didn't. Anyway, Logitech has a new line of what's the name here? Keyboard folios. Are they calling them the Slim Folio or something? It's available in the 11-inch and 12.9-inch flavor. For both iPad Pros, here's the deal. It's not a smart connector keyboard. So it's a keyboard case. It's got a plastic case. You need to put your iPad into this plastic case. And you need to connect via Bluetooth. Now, Logitech says it's Bluetooth LE and the battery lasts up to 3 months and you can recharge it using USB-C.
It also has a clever thing where it turns off and on based upon the iPad being in the case, which is quite clever. So when you put it in the keyboard mode, it will connect, and when you take it out of the keyboard mode, it will disconnect.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is clever.
And of course, being a Logitech keyboard, this means you got backlit keys, you got media keys for functions like controlling playback and going back to the home screen, or triggering spotlight search and tweaking the brightness of the backlight of the keyboard.
You know, that's not where I thought you were going. I thought you were going to say, being a Logitech keyboard, it's chunky and heavy.
Oh,
It's also that it's very chunky and heavy.
it is.
All right, so Logitech, they have been improving their keyboards. The first Create cases for the first iPad Pros were really bad, and we talked about those.
I feel like it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride for them, to be honest.
Yeah. Because the very first one for the first iPad Pro, the keyboard was decent, but the plastic case and the stickers that you got to cover the buttons, they were terrible. Yeah. They were terrible. And then they had a second generation one that was kind of okay for the big iPad Pro, but then they did the small one that you really didn't like, Mike. And we talked about this on the show, and we got a bunch of feedback. Now, this one is chunky and heavy, but it looks kind of okay. I mean, it's got a fixed viewing angle, like the Apple keyboard. I mean, the Apple keyboard at least has 2 angles. I think this one is just 1. But it supports a bunch of modes that you don't get with the Apple Smart Keyboard Folio, like a typing mode for touch. And it's also got this interesting magnetic clasp for the pencil. So you can actually store the pencil, but also charge it at the same time. It looks fine. It's also cheaper than the Smart Keyboard Folio. It costs $120 for the 11-inch version and $130 for the bigger one. So I don't know if, again, I don't want to buy this for myself. I would rather wait for Logitech to send me one so I can play with it and send it back. Also because my girlfriend has been complaining about the number of keyboards that have been accumulating in our apartment. So I would like to test this, but I don't feel like buying one myself. So I think it's in, I've seen Jason complain about the fact that it's a plastic case that you need to put your iPad into. And I understand the complaint there. But also some folks want a more rugged type of setup for their iPad Pro. So I can understand why some people prefer the plastic case approach.
If I'm gonna put a keyboard onto my iPad that's gonna make it weigh as much as a laptop, I want laptop-like functionality, which is why I'm interested in the Bridge keyboard. Right? Like, I want an adjustable hinge, right? Like, I want it to be built out of aluminium so it's super strong and sturdy, right? So it's got a strong base when I'm using it in my lap. And I just feel like that this is not that. This is just like a more beefed up version of Apple's product, and that's not for me. Right? Because I like the Smart Keyboard Folio because it's nice and like it's not light per se, but it's the lightest, right? And it's got the smart connector, so I never need to charge it. I don't really feel for me that what you do get, which is the backlighting and the media keys, that is not enough for me to counterbalance the weight, no pun intended, and the fact that you're putting it in this case all the time. Like that's not what I want. Still waiting on those Bridge keyboards.
When are they shipping? Pretty soon, right?
They said April, and I think the last I heard is that like they were still on track. But I'll be honest, I don't know.
I'd have nothing to say about this keyboards. I'm pretty happy with the Apple one. It has the right capability for the size, I guess. Like, yes, I would love backlit keyboard and stuff, but it's fine. It's fine.
I have a confession here. I wrote about the Smart Keyboard Folio months ago. I wrote that I didn't like it and that I couldn't get used to it. I've been using the Smart Keyboard Folio for the past 3 months at this point, and I kind of love it. And at some point, I guess something changed, and I've grown to, and I think I know what it is, and I gotta read about it on Mac Stories. But now, basically, like I've been trying different solutions, like different cases that support the Magic Keyboard, and I feel like it's kind of hard to go back to something that is not as easy and integrated as the Smart Keyboard Folio.
Yeah.
Like, and I keep thinking the same things that I wrote months ago. Like, it's not backlit, it doesn't have media keys, but it's also so easy to use. And like,
yeah, it works, right? Like,
it works, and you can spill water or breadcrumbs on it, and it's fine. It doesn't, nothing happens. You could just wipe it over and clean it. I've gotten used to it, and I feel kind of bad about it because I was a Smart Keyboard hater, and then I kind of changed my mind.
You've seen the light. That's fine. I think people overlook the smart connector, but that's the genius of it for me. I don't want to fiddle with Bluetooth and batteries and everything else. Like, I just want them to connect and work, and Apple wins that hands down.
So Logitech have always used the smart connector, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that this one isn't? Do you think Apple's stopping them? Do you think that there's something that's changed about the smart connector that they can't get what they want out of it? What do you think?
I don't know. That was also interesting to me. Honestly, I have no idea.
Logitech were the only company making smart connector accessories.
They made that terrible charging stand. Remember, it charged it over 18 hours or something.
The Logitech base. That review that Jason did is so much fun.
Now we're gonna hear from people who say, "Oh, I love my Logi
cool.
base."
That's okay. Hey,
I have nothing to say to you if you like the Logitech base. I have nothing for you.
Wow. I was gonna say we can disagree on things, and it's fine. But Mike, you just took it a different direction.
I say I have nothing for you. I have nothing. I have nothing I can say. It doesn't seem like a good product to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I do have to wonder, though, if it's a problem of, I don't know, about power delivery of the smart connector, that maybe something changed in the new iPad Pros and Logitech. They wanted to do backlight again, and maybe there's a different way that the new iPad Pros deliver power via the smart connector. The Logitech was like, no, that's not enough for us anymore. So,
well, it is also possible, and this idea makes sense to me. Apple made it something that people could develop for, right? And nobody did. So now they're just like, well, screw it. Let's just keep it as a competitive advantage.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's talk let's go from keyboards to headphones. We spoke about the Powerbeats Pro. They were rumored and leaked in iOS 12.2 like a week ago or so. So these are wireless Beats headphones. So there's one for each ear, and they're workout headphones. So they have a little arm that goes over your ear, so they kind of stay in place. They have been officially announced as of today. They come in several colors. They have 4 different ear tip sizes. The AirPods are one size fits all unless they don't fit you, and then you're left in the cold, right? These are customizable.
But I think these are those ones that go in your ear, right? And I can't abide by those. They're so uncomfortable for me. But yeah, it does allow for more, I guess, more different fits, I suppose.
Right. 9 hours of listening time, which is better than the AirPods. 24 hours total when you use the battery case. So just like the AirPods, the case has a battery in it. It charges by lightning. And this uses the H1 chip, as we discussed. This will be rolling out, I guess, to more and more things. I think they look pretty good. I'm not sure they look $250 good, even with physical buttons and, you know, some niceties that like the Beats X have. But $250 is a little steep for me, I think.
Well, they got Pro in the name. So
That's true.
What more do you want?
That just means their keyboards will fail. Oh, that's a different thing. Hey, yo.
Although they have buttons, maybe the buttons won't work.
Yeah, you can't get crumbs in them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just excited that Apple's having more options with this technology. You know, the AirPods aren't for everyone. Years ago, I had the old versions of these that had the wire in between them, just like the Beats X do now. And it's kind of nice actually having something that like clips over your ear, or if you need to take one out, you can clip it like, you know, on the neck of your shirt or something. Like it gives you some convenience that AirPods don't have. A friend of mine just got AirPods, his first set this week actually, and you know he was telling me about them, and I was like, "Here's the number one rule: never take one of them out of your ear and sit it down anywhere. Like the second you let go of it, it's gone forever." And with these, they're a little bit bigger. You have something you can do with that little loop. So, you know, again, I'm excited just to see options for this.
Adina's had AirPods for a couple of months or whatever, and I just keep finding them.
Just around.
She takes them out and just puts them down.
Really?
Like both of them. She just puts them both on the table. Like, put them in the case. She's like, I'll pick them up tomorrow. I'm like, what is this?
No.
Just I have no concept of the way that you're using this product. She just takes them
Why?
out, both of them out, and just puts them down next to each other, like on the table. It's like, I don't understand what you're doing with this. It's very strange to me. I don't get
Yeah,
it.
that is super strange.
People use technology in weird and wonderful
That
ways,
is true.
says the
That
guy
is
who
true.
covers all these products and stickers. Right.
I wanted to say that Silvia is really intrigued by this new Power Beats Pro. Of course, she as a dancer and all of her friends, they tend to like this type of Beats products because they are more comfortable when you're dancing or when you're rehearsing a choreography and that type of stuff. So I explained to her the benefits of the new model, you know, with the Siri integration, with the better audio quality because of the new chip.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they don't have a wire anymore. So she's really intrigued. She's thinking about whether she wants the new AirPods or these Power Beats Pro. So I guess we have a few weeks to think about it before we make a decision and go to the Apple Store or buy them online. I don't know.
I do wonder what this means for the future of the Beats X product. You know, I mentioned on the show that my wife has been through several pairs of them as they just tend to die. And we had a bunch of feedback from people saying, yeah, I'm on my third, fourth, fifth pair. So clearly there's some sort of reliability problem with the Beats X. And now with these, I just wonder if Apple needs both or if they can, you know, upgrade the Beats X with the H1 and make it, however they're failing, make them better, make them more robust so they last longer. Because frankly, burning through a pair every 9 months is just unacceptable. So I do kind of wonder, like, what's the future of that product now that these are here? And I guess time will tell. As far as I know, the Beats X are still for sale and they haven't been upgraded. So maybe they will, or maybe they'll be reimagined somehow to be better, which would be great. We also want to talk a little bit about Apple News Plus. There's an article in the New York Times talking about how its launch has gone. Of course, we spoke about some of the problems they had at launch with the apps crashing, and they got that fixed server side. But then the Mac app, you can just like go and like strip out all the PDFs, which is super, super bad. It's a little messy. But this New York Times article is interesting. It says that 200,000 people signed up for Apple News Plus in the first 48 hours. Now, of course, all these people are on the trial, just like Federico and I are. So no one's paying yet. There's no money moving through the system. I have no idea if 200,000 is a good or bad number. Like, I just don't know.
The New York Times thing says it's more than TextureHand. So Like, but again, is that good or bad? It's probably not that. I mean, how many did they have? If they had 190,000, then it's not that great.
On the Vergecast this week, Neela Patel interviewed Peter Kafka from Recode Media. It was a great episode.
I was listening to that today.
Yeah, that talking about Apple News and Apple News Plus, and it says something really smart of like, these big companies can accidentally have successful products that aren't very good. It's like there's so many iPhones, you're going to have some people just wander into this product, because it's the default, because it's there on the home screen. And clearly News and News Plus will benefit from that. But I'm curious what I'm really curious to see is once this trial is up, when's the first time they tell us how many people they have paying the $10 a month? That's really what I want to see. I want to see reports of, okay, this is how much like we're actually making as a magazine, because there's really good arguments on both sides of the debate of like, is this good for journalism or not? Like, I don't know. Like, I have a journalism degree. That's my background. I don't know if it's good for magazines and newspapers yet. I feel like it could be, but then I also feel like it could be a disaster. I just don't know. And so the proof will be in these numbers. And, who knows when Apple will tell us when they say, oh, we have 500,000 people paying or whatever it is, whenever it is. I'll be keeping an eye out. But, it's there. I could tell you already I'm using it way less than I was. I just don't think it's probably just not for me ultimately. And, we'll see if it sticks. But at this point, I'm not using it very much, to be honest with you.
Interesting. I'm using it a bunch. Actually, I've been catching up on some articles from Edge, the video game magazine. I've been checking out Retro Gamer and the New Yorker and, of course, the Wall Street Journal. And in fact, I have a funny story for you guys. Have you ever tried to cancel a subscription to the Wall Street Journal?
Not yet.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So I tried, and it turns out that you can sign up. You can't. You cannot online. You can sign up online. They're very happy to take your credit card and make you create an account. But then when you want to cancel, you need to call them on the phone.
Jeez.
Well, first of all, you're told that you need to find your account number. And to find your account number, I suppose you need to go to your account page. And on your account page, there's a little tool that asks you, let us find your subscription. And basically, the website was telling me, your subscription does not exist, even though I've been charged twice already. So I try to call them on the phone. First, I tried a US number, but I was told that it was too early in the morning because I was in Italy, of course, and I needed to try European line. Then I tried, and that was yesterday. Today, I tried this Italian phone number, but actually a very nice lady from the UK answered, and she had me check my account info. Of course, you can imagine the spelling for my address and my name and last name. And then after 5 minutes of doing this kind of spelling and making sure that they had my records correct, she told me, oh, but no, you actually created an account for the US website. So you need to, I would have you transferred to the US line, but it's too early right now. So you need to call later. Okay, I was like, all right, fine, I'll call later. And earlier this afternoon, a few hours ago, I tried to call the US number. But I was told that the line was busy and that they could not answer my request. I was very upset about this. So what I did, as anyone would do, is I Googled, is there any way to cancel WSJ online? And I found this tip from somebody on Reddit. So thank you, unnamed person, who shared this piece of life wisdom with other users, in that due to regulations in California, the Wall Street Journal is obligated by law to allow you to cancel your subscription if you change your billing address to any address in California. So, of course, as you might imagine, I changed my billing address to 1 Infinite Loop in Cupertino. And I canceled my subscription without having to call anybody. Because screw phone calls. Who wants to have a phone call to cancel your subscription?
That's just a good tip for in general, right? I bet it's not just the Wall Street Journal that works with.
So California wins once again. best state in the United States. I don't know if it's the best state really. I just like it
It is.
because it's sunny. But yeah, so change your billing address to California. You can use whatever you like, and you will gain this very handsome red button that says cancel subscription. And,
That's great.
Now, also secondary teachy tip for this: once you cancel the Wall Street Journal from Safari, from your basically the online subscription, because you just pay for Apple News Plus and you're fine with the limitations of Apple News Plus. When you land in Safari on any Wall Street Journal article, you're like, well, now I cannot access the article in Safari because Safari doesn't have my Apple News Plus info because I no longer have an actual Wall Street Journal account. Well, what you can do is you can tap the share icon in Safari, open the share sheet, and find open story in Apple News. And that will redirect and it will open that article you're looking at that has a paywall in Safari. It will show you the fully unlocked article in Apple News if you subscribe to Apple News Plus.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That seems like a bug.
No, it's an actual extension that Apple makes to let you jump from articles viewed in Safari to articles viewed in Apple News.
That's an interesting problem, though, like the paywall issue. And like if you have an account online, Apple News doesn't know about it. Like it's really messy and confusing in places, which I think is one reason I'm a little turned off from it. But
so Apple News and a very long story about the Wall Street Journal. But yeah, I'm gonna continue paying because now I finally have a way to read the Wall Street Journal in a much cheaper way alongside a bunch of other video game and music magazines. So that's fine. Yeah.
this episode of Connected is also brought to you in part by our friends over at Hover. Buying a domain name is the first step in building your online identity. And with Hover, you can find the domain name that shows the world who you are and what you're passionate about. I always mention this, but it's one that's really important to me is my 512pixels.net domain, a domain I've owned for a really long time. Since before Federico and Mike were born, I owned that domain. And it's really important to me. It's where my writing has been now for almost 10 and a half years. And I have it safe and sound at Hover. And I get all of their great features when I have to do anything with it. So they have best-in-class customer support team. If you have to do anything with something like DNS or setting up an email account, like domain stuff can be confusing, and their customer support team, they're easy to talk to. They know what they're doing. You don't get passed off from person to person. Everyone knows what's going on, and it's so stellar. And they have this really cool feature called Hover Connect. So if you're looking to connect your domain name to, say, a website builder or some sort of well-known hosting platform, you can actually do that with just a few simple clicks. You don't have to go in and enter the A record and the C name and change this and change that. Chances are, if you're using your domain name with a big web builder online, you can just do it really easily. So you're thinking, well, who needs a domain name? Everyone needs a domain name. Everyone's got one, and so it's important for yours to stand out, which means they have over 400 domain name extensions to choose from. So you can get really creative when you're branding yourself online. One really cool option is .me. It's a great extension to show something like a portfolio site, and you can show your artwork or your projects you're working on to show what you're good at. So if you have a personal website that's ready for launch, grab a .me extension. It's a great way to stand out when sending in your resume. The .me domains are on sale this month only at Hover for $9.99. That's 33% off your first year. And if you're new to Hover, you can get an additional 10% off any domain extension for your first year. Head on over to hover.com/connected. That's hover.com/connected. It's time to get your portfolio website up and running. My thanks to Hover for their support of this show and Relay FM.
AirPower's dead.
Well,
Told you.
you were right. And
I was right.
If only there were a hashtag for that, what would that be?
Hashtag Mike was correct again.
Mike wasn't wrong.
Mike wasn't wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Well, yeah, it's this. Now we can say that all those signs were just leftovers from.
I feel like the one thing that I really want to impress upon both you, Federico, and everyone else is this idea that Apple's so perfect that their packaging couldn't
No,
be wrong.
you don't need to. You don't need to convince me.
This is
that.
one of those things where it's like everyone's like, "Oh, there's no way they would get the packaging wrong." Yeah, well, they did, didn't they? Multiple times over multiple years. They're not as perfect as you think they are, right? Like, and that's fine. They are a big company, right? The team who's designing the packaging probably thought it was still coming because they're like me and you, right? So no one was telling them. They're just making the packaging. Right? So, whatever, right? And it just goes to the printer, and the printer prints it, and they made the boxes, and then the boxes sat in a warehouse for 6 months while they were deciding what to do with it all. Like, they are a company that is possible to make mistakes, and they can fail too, like they have with this product. Because this is like, I hope, like you have to wait like 20 years to get stories. I really want to know what happened to this.
Yeah, me too.
How did they go from, we're so confident we're going to put it on stage, to 2 years later canceling it?
And my thought is, like the box thing is weird, but my thought is that shows that this was like still a possibility until fairly recently when they were printing those AirPod boxes. Like, who knows when those actually came out? And my guess is that future AirPod boxes at some point will not contain that stuff. They will get those out of the system. Yeah. But that means at some point in 2018, this was still a possibility. And so what happened? When did that change? Were they making progress and they hit a wall? Like, I agree with you. I so badly want to know what happened here. I'm itching for that tell-all report at some point.
I do want to say something about this. Of course, I'm sad that this product will not exist, and I've been acquiring some wireless chargers over the past few weeks.
At what point does Sylvia have to tell you have too many wireless chargers? Are you getting there yet?
Yes, and I've been trying to explain the benefits of the convenience. So I think of I've received this first Nomad base station, but the one without the Apple Watch charger, because that's super back ordered. I hope that I will be able to write about that soon, but we'll see. So today, for example, I got the Nomad wireless charging pad, the base station that charges up to 2 Qi devices. And what's nice about it is that you can put the iPhone on it, you can put the AirPods case on it, but it's also got in the back a USB-A port and a USB-C port. So that single lightning cable that we still need to keep around for Silvia's old AirPods and the iPad Pro that she uses, we can have in the same pad both wireless charging and a lightning cable that comes out the back. So that's nice. And now I'm looking at sort of putting a wider charging pad basically at the base of the ultra-fine display that I have. Right now I have a single round Qi charger from Native Union, and I'm looking at a more like rectangular pad where I can actually store 2 devices. So I've been filling the house with a bunch of these pads. But the thing that I want to say is, I think you can be sad and bummed and disappointed about AirPower not existing without losing your mind about Apple. I think people read too much into AirPower as a way to guess what the state of Apple is. I don't think canceling AirPower means Apple is doomed.
No. It means that something is wrong, but it doesn't mean that it's so wrong that it's going to affect everything the company does.
Yes, and I've seen such extremes on Twitter from people saying that Tim Cook or Johnny Ive should be fired because of this AirPower thing.
People say that about anything at this point. It's like a meme right now. It's maddening.
But seriously though, like you can see when people say that.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, it's not a good meme, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a thing that just keeps coming up.
Yeah,
right?
And it's not like the iPhone got cancelled. It's not like the iPad Pros had to be recalled. Now I understand people making a fuss about the MacBook Pro keyboards. Now that's something worth getting upset, about. That's a real failure.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that because AirPower was cancelled, it's a sign of Apple's mismanaged whatever. Like, come on, that feels like too much. Yes, it's a failure. Yes, it's a disappointment. And one day, hopefully, we'll get the full story. But I think people some people take things a bit too far in terms of and it's not like I'm saying people shouldn't be critical of Apple. That's totally not what I'm saying. But in this very specific instance, for this very specific product,
ultimately unimportant product.
Yes, I mean, you can be sad about it. You can be disappointed. It is a disappointment, but it's not like now suddenly you need to return your AirPods or do something crazy as that. Like, you can just grab any Qi charger and it's fine. Like,
yeah, I mean, and it's probably like in some ways, like just fundamentally flawed product. Like, depending on the Apple Watch strap that you use, you might not have even been able to use this product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right. Because
exactly.
every image shows the Apple Watch face down. Now, if you don't have a strap where it can be unbuckled or whatever, then you can't use this product in the first place. And you might be better off with one of the products where it's got like that kind of built-in Apple Watch charger that stands up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's also just like, all right, you can put it anywhere on the mat. Like, it's not that incredible. Like, it's fine, right? Like, it's fine. And also, how often, I mean, I've been thinking more about this, right? Like, how often do you need to charge them all at the exact same time anyway?
Maybe at night, maybe.
Yeah, but like, you don't even need to charge your AirPods every day. And when you do need to charge them, it takes like 10 minutes to get what you need.
Something else that I've noticed lately, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but it feels like we've been doing this podcast for a few years, right? And we've seen various waves of sort of these Apple memes and like the expressions that the mic hates, like certain ways of thinking about Apple. And it feels like for a few years there were people playing analysts on Twitter. That was a thing that people would do, like make charts and pretend to be experts about numbers. And something that I've noticed lately is the figure of the supply chain expert. Like, folks playing at being experts about how operations work in China. Like, like, I'm perfectly comfortable saying I write about Apple for a living and I don't know a single thing about supply chain, how it works. I can guess, but otherwise I can just refer to other folks. But I see a lot of people on, it used to be the armchair analyst, now it's the armchair supply chain expert. That feels like a new thing that I'm seeing on Twitter. Like, everybody talks about, components and these very specific things from China. Like, where did you gain this knowledge? Sometimes I wonder. I don't know. It's just a thing that I notice in my timeline. Maybe I follow the wrong people. Maybe that's a sign that I should curate my following list a bit more. But
I have not seen people doing this, so yeah, I think you need to start cutting some of that list down, my friend.
But I've seen people talk very specifically about coils and plastic. Like, do you have like a catalog where you know where all these things come from? It's like,
It's too many coils, man. Too many coils. That is the problem, though, right? Like, that's the kind of the agreed upon understanding is just, it was just too much. And I think this was what I was saying for a while, like why I would have guessed the product was late, is they were having it be two different charging technologies in one pad, and they have to have like multiple charging coils in the one pad. No wonder the thing was overheating. I actually imagined this future where it would have a little fan in it. Like, that was the way they were going to deal with it. They just put a little fan in there. That'd be nice. Nice soothing fan sound to help you go to sleep at white noise.
It could be a combined white noise and charger device.
2 in 1.
So Stephen Hackett, as the historian,
It's me.
when was the last time this happened? Like, straight up cancellation of a product. Do you know?
Before it was released. There's not much in recent history. You've got Copeland back in like the 90s, the software project that's supposed to save Apple, and then it failed, so they had to go buy Next. That's probably the biggest one, honestly. But it's very rare, and it's rare because they don't usually pre-announce things. And I bet you $1 that it's a while before they do that again, because this is going to be seared into them for a while, I think.
Because they've had like really bad production problems. Like the good historic example of that is the white iPhone 4.
Yes.
right? Which came out a long time after, right?
Yeah, and remember the 4S was the first phone that went from summer to a fall release. So the iPhone 4 was out like 5 quarters as like the new top iPhone. And it was very close to the end.
Did it come when the Verizon? Didn't it go? The white one come out when the?
No, it was after that.
After that, even.
It was after. Yeah,
because that was like the glue was making it go yellow or something.
Yeah,
right?
there's all sorts of stories about what happened, or maybe the white glass let too much light in around the camera lens. All sorts of stuff.
Okay.
AirPods, they struggled to get them out. The iPad Mini the original one was out pretty late and in small quantities. Like they've had issues. Canceling something that's been pre-announced is a very small class of things. And Copeland and AirPower, I think, are probably the biggest two at this point.
Right, but there's no hardware that you can recall in recent memory.
Not in recent memory, no. I'm trying to think back, and maybe there was something in the 90s somewhere, but nothing of importance, really. I mean, the closest thing is Steve Jobs and the Power Mac G5 is going to be at 3 gigahertz next year, and that just didn't happen. And when they introduced the Intel transition, he said, "Look, I promised you this. We've been unable to do it. We're moving to Intel." And the Mac Pro, the first Mac Pro, its top configuration, 3 gigahertz. So that's kind of an example. They promised it, they couldn't do it.
That's a change to a product, really, though, right?
It's a change in processor.
We just killed the iMac now because we can't do that anymore.
It's weird.
Who knows? Maybe the Mac Pro will be the next one, right?
Stop.
Am I right?
No, don't say that.
Maybe the Mac
Shut
Pro's
your face.
the next one.
Hush,
Am I right?
Hush.
At least it was never shown. So
they got used to it now, so they're just like, we'll just cancel them all. What does it matter? Let's cancel them all.
Anytime Matt Panzarino tweets that he's been at Apple getting news, I'm going to be really nervous now. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
This episode of Connected is also brought to you by ExpressVPN. We can probably all hold our hands up and admit that cybercrime is something that we think happens to other people. Because who would want your data? Well, the bad news is stealing data from just everyday people like you and me by things like using public Wi-Fi. It's one of the simplest ways for hackers to make money. If you leave your internet connection unencrypted, things become vulnerable. But there's something you can do to protect yourself from cyber criminals. You can start using ExpressVPN. It works by securing and anonymizing your internet browsing. It encrypts your data and hides your public IP address with easy-to-use apps that run seamlessly on the background of your device. And you can turn on ExpressVPN protection with just one click. Then you're free to safely surf on public Wi-Fi without being snooped on or having your personal data stolen. ExpressVPN was rated the #1 VPN service by TechRadar, and it even comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So I have some travel coming up just in a few days, and I'm going to be at this hotel over the weekend, and you can bet I'm not going to be doing browsing on open hotel Wi-Fi. I'm going to be using ExpressVPN, so I know that the emails that I do, things I'm logging into, that is all secure because I can have a peace of mind about my data. For less than $7 a month, you can get the same ExpressVPN protection that I have. If you ever use public Wi-Fi and you want to keep the bad guys away from your data, you need ExpressVPN. So go to expressvpn.com/connected to learn more. Protect your online activity today and find out how you can get those 3 months free at expressvpn.com/connected. That's expressvpn.com/connected for 3 months free with a 1-year package. Our thanks to ExpressVPN for their support of Connected and Relay FM.
So we're going to have our second entry in the Federico Viticci class of Apple Cloud services as we roll up towards WWDC. So we're going to be focusing on a bunch of stuff that Apple's doing and things like that have got some kind of service bent to them. And today we're going to talk about iCloud, but specifically iCloud Drive, right?
Yeah, I wanted to mainly talk about iCloud Drive, but also mention a few other things about the generic iCloud service, if that's okay. But primarily iCloud Drive, yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I think it's important that we separate all these different flavors of iCloud. We got iCloud Drive, which is different from CloudKit, which is the iCloud-based API that developers can use in their apps. Like if you use Bear or the I think Agenda, maybe all these other apps based on iCloud,
Yeah.
but they don't
From a
actually
user
show you.
perspective, CloudKit is great, right? Like so many apps that I use now
Yeah.
use this, and it seems to be fine for me.
Yeah, totally. And there's also the fact that iCloud Drive is built into the Files app on iOS and the Finder on the Mac, but I want to talk specifically about improvements to the service, not necessarily to the Files app, because I feel like there's a whole bunch of other features that I want to see in the Files app that do not belong necessarily to iCloud Drive, but maybe, could be applied for Dropbox or, these other providers. So I want to
That's
talk
how
about...
you want to do things, but I desperately need to voice 2 major complaints for Files. I just need to do it because these happened to me today whilst I was preparing for this show.
Wow.
It won't remember favorites.
Yes, that's true.
Sometimes the favorites just disappear. And then today I tried to re-add the favorites and I would drag it in and they would just disappear in front of my eyes. So that's great.
Well, it's not like they're your favorites all the time. They're just your favorites
Just sometimes.
in fleeting moments.
It's whenever me and Files agree that something is a favorite. And the struggle to download files where you tap on a file and the spinner just spins. And I am watching a spinner just spin on a 40 kilobyte numbers sheet. And it doesn't download. Sometimes to the point that I have to restart my entire device
That's fine.
to be able to download this file. And what makes it worse is when apps like Numbers will only work this way, right? So it's not like I can't do anything. I can't download it. I can't save it. And then other times where it's like, okay, well, now if I want to upload a file, because of the way that the Files app works, I can't get to Dropbox directly anymore. So I just have to wait or just sit and deal with this. It's maddening. And I need to put those two things on the record as much as I possibly can. And here they are.
I've had those problems before. So especially if you try to add favorites from a third-party provider, I think that's when it fails. Anyway, I have a whole list of complaints about iCloud Drive, but I think I picked 4 of them. 4 main areas that I would like to discuss. First one, this is kind of obvious. I don't know why Apple hates folders. They hate folders in shortcuts. They hate folders in iCloud Drive. I want to be able to share folders with an iCloud Drive link. I've been doing this with Dropbox for ages. It is the single reason why John and I, for example, for App Stories and Mac Stories, we have to use Dropbox. I would rather use iCloud Drive. I use iCloud Drive for a bunch of personal things. But I have to keep using Dropbox and pay for it because I need to be able to share folders and subfolders and entire directories of containing other folders. This is one of the most obvious features of a file sharing service, which iCloud Drive is, because it does let you share individual files. I'm just surprised that it still does not let you share folders.
This is a cornerstone of collaboration, right? Folder sharing. This is something that so many people do. Like, I'm a big fan of Dropbox, so it would take a lot for me to want to move what I do in Dropbox to iCloud Drive. But this is like foundation step 1. Like, I will never move my stuff to iCloud Drive primarily if they can't do this, right? Like, this is like table stakes for me. Like, you have to be able to let me share a folder with someone rather than me needing to share files with them every time. So I am not, or nobody is a bottleneck in a collaborative process, right? Where it's like, if I had to, every time I upload to Dropbox, send a link to Steven, like, it's already hard enough for me sometimes to remember to upload the file, right? Like, like I do that, like, let alone me having to then send a link to him every time. The fact that I put it in a folder on my desktop and he can have it on his desktop, like, that is one of the best parts of Dropbox. And iCloud Drive not having this functionality means that there are so many people who are like me that wouldn't be able to move to it.
Yeah. And there's so many nice touches about Dropbox, especially when you access it from a web browser. Like, for example, the fact that you can request files from other people, like, that's such a handy feature when you just want to make sure that...
That file request thing is excellent.
That is when you have a group of people, like you're doing a podcast with like 4 other people and you want to make sure that everybody contributes to the same folder, you can just issue a file request and that's it. And it's that kind of, that kind of added flexibility that I would like to see in iCloud Drive, starting with folders. Second feature that I think should be enabled at a service level and then, of course, also reflected in the Files app is a proper support for versions. So versions of files. This has been possible for years in the macOS Finder, I think since maybe Snow Leopard, Steven, the UI to browse versions of the same document.
Yeah, somewhere or Lion, I think, but yeah, in there somewhere.
Okay.
Can I ask, is this different to Time Machine? Or is that the same thing?
It is based on local Time Machine snapshots, I believe, but it's when they screwed up the save as and duplicate thing. You know, like no one's to this day. I don't know how it works in some apps. It was all tied in there. But yeah, man, it has saved my bacon on Dropbox more than once over the years. Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, so many times. Like I have things in shared folders which sometimes I need, but somebody else in the folder has deleted, and like. Being able to, I mean, I know this isn't exactly the same because you're probably going to talk about restoring deleted files in a minute, but like,
yeah, that's my next point. But we can talk about them together.
Sometimes when I'm editing, so with Cortex, me and Grace share a folder, and we actually keep the Logic project in there.
Oh boy!
And there was once where it actually works better than you would expect. Once I screwed it up so bad, I was able to use a different version of the Logic project in Dropbox to fix it. It was like the only way I could think to do it. And there may have been different ways to do it, but that was just the thing that jumped to my mind, and I was able to to save the project that way. So I've had a bunch of stuff like that myself too, where the version has been great, as well as the restoring of deleted files.
Yeah. Yeah, so restoring versions and restoring deleted files. The second one, the deleted files, is a very strange limitation in that it is actually possible already, but you need to go to iCloud.com with a browser to do it. And,
Nothing
hunt,
should exist
and
there
hunt
only.
for the feature because it's well hidden. And also, of course, you have this odd situation where the company that says that the iPad Pro is a computer also has a website that if you go from an iPad says that you need to use a computer like a Mac to use it.
I mean, what is a computer really?
What really that adds such a meta message. Like, I love that message. Really, what's a computer? So yeah, iCloud.com. You need to request desktop mode if you're doing this from an iPad, or you need to use iCab with a user agent for Safari for Mac or Chrome for Mac.
Who doesn't know that? That's just so easy that's ridiculous, Apple. come on.
Any iPad power user knows what iCab can do for them. We've all been in those situations.
Exactly. If you find something that you cannot do in Safari, just download iCab and
can always do it.
Spend a couple of hours searching for the setting, and you will find it. Because who doesn't wanna have kiosk mode on their iPad browser?
That sounds like an App Store editorial gold rush just waiting to happen.
Great app. We love these apps with kiosk mode.
Trying to log into iCloud.com? Check out this.
iCab is amazing.
It is.
It's
Yes,
just
it is.
Overkill in every possible way. Right?
Yes. I needed to download a few gigabytes of FLAC files from my 7 Digital account.
Sure.
And of course,
doesn't need that.
Well,
Yeah, it's on my to-do list for this afternoon.
They were just a bunch of zip files, okay, that I needed to download all at once. And you, as the Mac user, might say, well, easy, just click on the buttons and add them to the download manager. But no, because Safari on iOS does not have a download manager. What is this advanced feature you're referring to, a download manager? Imagine this wild concept of a pop-up that contains your downloads.
Oh my God. Do you know what the iCab Apple Watch app can do?
It can show you articles.
It is a remote control for the iOS version.
Of course.
You can switch tabs, open bookmarks, scroll, and navigate using buttons on the Apple Watch.
Anyway, I used iCab to download the 10 zip archives, and it was totally... And then you find those zip archives in the files provider. Apple just hired the iCab person and put him in charge of the, Safari team. Maybe not in charge, but
Zach
put him on
in the chat room is saying that you can get an iOS 6 theme for iCab
Yes.
in the app. It's like in the theme settings. I love everything about this application,
Yes.
including its inscrutable nature. It's brilliant.
and kiosk mode, which is really
Kiosk mode.
handy for all those who run kiosks. So anyway, you shouldn't be forced to go to iCloud.com to restore a deleted file when that website does not work in Safari for iPad. Also, fun fact, I do believe that iCloud actually supports a versioning API already, because apps like IA Writer, which is my text editor of choice, or MindNode actually do use iCloud versions. So there's an API, but it's not well documented, and most developers do not know about it, and it's not available in the Files app. So make it happen, Apple. Finally, so Mike also mentioned restore deleted files. More controls over shared links. There's some options that you can configure right now. You can
I
control...
forget that you can even get shared links for files in iCloud Drive.
It's a very kind of strange menu. Like, first, you need to choose the destination where you will be sharing the link, and then you can see the actual link.
Oh,
it's
that's
kind of
like Apple
backwards.
Notes. That's
It's
like
kinda-
Apple Notes, right?
But it's like if you were to send a letter to somebody, first you will write the address and then you will write the letter. The process is not. This is not the way that it's supposed to work.
Always start with the envelope. Always start with the envelope.
Or you can only write the address down when you're standing in front of the post box.
This is not the way that it's. Anyway, at least it's possible. What I would like to see is at least the ability to set an expiration time for a link, or to add like a specific password to make sure that not only people with the link, but also people with the link and who also know the password can access the content behind the link.
Two-factor link sharing is what they call it, I think.
Yeah. So I think Dropbox has these features. Box, because they're really enterprise and serious users, they have these features. So these 4 options, so sharing folders, versions, restore deleted files, and more controls over shared links. I would like to see this stuff in iCloud Drive as the service, and of course there should be a UI in the Files app or in other places where iCloud Drive is integrated on iOS and macOS. Is there anything else you guys want to add before I mention a few other iCloud things?
I don't think so, not for iCloud Drive. I think that you were right. There are, of course, lots of more esoteric things, but as you said, these are the basic features that it needs to be a truly collaborative and robust file storage solution, rather than just a convenient one, which it is, I think, for most people right now.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would add is that on macOS, iCloud Drive just still feels really bolted on. Like, it doesn't feel integrated in a way that you would expect it to. Like, yes, some apps can just read and write to their containers, and those are all folders now, which is nice. And yes, you can sync your desktop and documents. You shouldn't. But why can't I select things on my Mac to back up to iCloud storage, right? Why can't it work with Time Machine to back up certain things? That's not as fully fleshed out as it is on iOS. And I think it would be more useful to more people if it could just do more. I have all this data.
So what you're saying is you want to get rid of Finder and put files in instead,
that is
right?
not what I'm saying.
Oh, sorry.
Not like that.
Sorry,
That-
misunderstood.
Finder actually,
Misunderstood you.
compared to files, Finder is a dream.
Yes.
But something like, I have all this data. Why can't I easily back up to it? That was a thing in the .Mac days. There was actually an app called Backup, and you could say, hey, you know what? I want to put these files in my iDisk, and so they're safe and sound. You can do all that manually.
You're talking like a grandpa. Oh, I have backup and I want to put this file in my iDisk.
It was a great feature in the day. I have all this iCloud storage I pay for. I have 1.6 terabytes free in my iCloud account. Why can't I easily do more with it? Apple should build more tools on the Mac to connect to it and use it.
Yeah,
Backup was awesome, man. There'll be a link in the show notes for young people
Can
to
you
read.
remind me the icon? Was it an umbrella?
It was an orange umbrella.
Came from my memory, kids. See? Who's the historian now?
I wrote about it in 2015, and I'm going to put this in the
Course you
show
did.
notes right now.
I'm sure that's why Mike remembers that, because he's such an avid reader of all blogs.
I wrote on my blog. Don't you remember everything I write?
Sure.
I remember all of them.
Sure you do.
All of them.
Sure you do. So the next few things that I would like to mention are, and I realize that now, extremely a case of first world problems, and very specifically teachy problems in one instance. So home screen sync. Now, before you make fun of me, Apple has this feature for Apple TV. It is a thing that they considered because Apple TVs are used in like in schools or like in certain shops or other offices. Like you have multiple Apple TVs. You want to make sure that you sync the apps that you have on those Apple TVs. And so there's a feature in tvOS called Home Screen Sync that allows you to keep the same set of apps and the same order for those apps. It's kind of like syncing shortcuts, but the order actually works. No, I mean, it's fixed now. So it's just a bad joke.
Is it fixed?
It is fixed. It is fixed.
So I can turn it on now?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Please do
is
it now on
always-
the air. Please do it so we can hear
All my devices are all over the place.
we can
I
hear
can't-
your suffering.
I would like, as someone who is part of the multi-pad lifestyle super group, which consists of me and Mike, I guess.
Right now, it's an ever-changing and evolving group. People
Super
come in
group.
and leave. But right now, definitely me and you are in there.
Yeah. So I would like to be able to sync apps between my iPads, even though I mentioned in the past that I like to keep separate sets of apps. There may be times, maybe this summer, when I need to use multiple iPads to test iOS 13, and I can already imagine that in that case I will want to have the same apps and the same order.
Yes.
And I can already imagine myself going crazy that I need to install the same app and put it in the same position twice. So home screen sync would be nice with iCloud. And of course, as somebody who wears multiple Apple Watches during the day, I cannot tell you how annoying it is to say, yes, install this watch app, and yes, put this app in my dock on the Apple Watch. Like, reset the same thing over and over because I have two Apple Watches. So just like it works on the Apple TV, make it work for people who have multiple iPads, for people who have multiple Apple Watches, and even for those freaks who have multiple Macs. Like,
Yeah, they're the real outliers.
yes. Speaking of which, I would like to have some kind of preference sync. So being able to sync settings between iOS devices. And because I feel like again, I have an iPhone and I have two iPads, and it feels like I'm constantly changing the same setting 3 times because I actually am. Like, I want to be able to choose, like, for example, my Safari settings, sync them to the same settings to the iPhone and the iPad. Because I always want to see the favorites bar, and I always want to open tabs in the background. Instead, I'm changing the same setting on all of my devices individually. Not to mention, like, adding a new account for Apple Mail.
It's the worst.
And especially if you have like 5 or 6 Gmail accounts and you need to do that every single time on every device. Like, I'm not a security expert. I don't like to throw around words like those supply chain people do. But, there's encryption these days. Let's make it happen. Make it so you have my email account, my credentials, and they are also encrypted somehow. I don't know if it's possible, but it's definitely... Or
Doesn't
at least,
AirMail do that?
Well, yes, but you're also trusting AirMail, and their servers. They store a token.
Spark do it too, I think.
But like, if there's a way that Apple can make this even easier, I mean, I would be fine to just re-enter my password, at least store my email address and just simplify how I can re-add the password for each account. But do not let me start the process from scratch every single time. And also, if you cannot make it work for Mail, at least make it work for Safari and all these other preferences that I want to keep the same across multiple Apple devices. And finally, again, possibly for the same security reasons, but I would like to actually have access to my HealthKit data on my iPad, because it feels like I've been collecting this data for years now, and I would like to have some kind of charts or graphs on that bigger screen instead of squinting at my iPhone's display to try and see trends and actual stats and numbers. I realize why Apple, there may be a security argument, but also your HealthKit data is actually stored in iCloud now. It's encrypted and stored in iCloud, so why can it not be on the iPad? I would be fine with health on the iPad just being a visualizer for things that you collected on the iPhone.
Do you know if you had two iPhones,
Well, I'm not at that point.
would it work, do you think?
You should ask Dave Morin, I guess. Not me.
That poor man. I feel really bad for him.
Well, I guess I could try this maybe this summer. I don't know. I'm going to be doing a bunch of testing, between 12 and 13. So I do suppose that if you store your HealthKit data in iCloud, that it will actually merge and sync across multiple iPhones. That is just my suspicion. Please do not try this at home without having heard from Apple if it actually works. Do not take my word for it. I don't want to reset your health database, with data from an empty iPhone. I do believe it will sync. Yeah. So that's
I
it
have
for
two
my
iPhones, one for day and one for the night. When the day phone runs out, the night phone takes over. I never have to worry. That is exactly your reasoning for the Apple Watch. Like 100%.
It was not.
I could say, that's quote from Federico Viticci, I have two Apple Watches, one for the day and one for the night. When the day watch runs out, the night watch takes over. I never have to worry.
Well, at least I didn't start a social network. All right.
Not yet. Yeah, all right. Let's have more storage,
Please.
Yes.
for iCloud, more iCloud
Yes.
storage for free for everybody, and just make that better.
Yes. More than 5 gigabytes. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's insulting. So if you want to find links to stuff we spoke about, including the handful of tickets we have left for our live show in San Jose, check out the links for this episode. They're in your podcast app of choice or on the web at relay.fm/connected/237. While you're there, you can get in touch via email. But if that's too old-fashioned for you, you can give us feedback on Twitter. Mike is there as IMYKE. Mike is the host of a bunch of great shows here on Relay FM as well. You can find Federico online at Viticci, Viticci, and he's the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. You can find me on Twitter as ISMH, and I write 512pixels.net. And also, all of us are on a bunch of shows at Relay. Who are we kidding? We all have multiple projects. So you can check all those out as well. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week who made the show possible: Hello, Hover, and ExpressVPN. And until our next episode, gentlemen, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.
Adios.